remember my Twitch username.
That's all right. Hey guys, thanks for hopping into the chat. Samsonite, heck yeah, we out here. We're just gonna let everyone trickle in for a couple minutes, and then we'll get started with Conlan. Um, I didn't realize you were wearing the async art shirt.
Oh,
Repping.
yeah.
That is
Yep.
awesome. I was trying to. I was thinking with some of my guests, I was like, if I have shirts from them, I want to wear them, and then I
Hmm.
totally forget. Like last night, I have a really epic Coldy shirt, um, like one of four, I think, and I have the cert with it and everything. But I had told him that I kind of like lived in it like for a few days last week, so it was in my
Uh,
dryer. So I was like, damn it, I forgot to wear it.
uh,
Um,
yeah, I got one of his shirts too. The decentralized shirt, where like he took like t-shirts and stitched it. I haven't got it yet, but one of these days when we meet up, I'll bet
yeah,
you get it.
yeah.
Cool.
Hey, Easy and Crypto, nice to see you
Yeah, easy.
here.
Or
Um,
Samsonite.
so I'm using a kind of new streaming service tonight. So let's hope I don't have that same issue that I had last time when I dropped. I think it'll be okay, but just so you guys know.
Cool.
Okay, sweet. So I think everybody's trickling in. I just saw Async put out awesome Discord for the Async folks. But let's just get started. Thank you so much for coming on behind the art. I don't know how long we've known each other. I feel like I got to know you really fast just through all these awesome things that you've been doing within the community. And you really quickly put your name in the NFT space just by creating such an awesome um, place for artists and creatives to kind of like do something amazing within crypto voxels, which we'll talk about in Gangnam. And then I also want to talk about a project that you created called Scribe,
Sure.
um, and get people familiar with that because it's pretty cool. And then, of course, Async, which if you guys have watched my stream, which a lot of you in here have, you know that I always talk about Async, and I'm always like, I'm Async's biggest fan. And I love the platform, and I think it's doing so many amazing things. So I'm super excited to talk about that. But before all of that, I guess we'll just have you introduce yourself, and then I'll probably ask you a little bit about your background and how we got here.
Sure. Yeah, so I'm Conlan. Yeah, I'm just another developer. My background's in mobile and game development. Been in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, pretty much my whole life. Um, just been working in startups. Been into crypto for a while on the side. Was in game development, and yeah, just was building things on the side. One of the things I was doing is basically going from project to project. And whenever I found a project that I was like really into, I would kind of like to see if I could build something to like just to get a better understanding of it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so initially it was all like DeFi projects, like lending projects, Compound, Augur, things like that. And so just basically doing that at first, and then eventually discovering crypto voxels and then NFT space, and then from there just getting really deep into it.
That's awesome. So, how did you initially discover crypto voxels? And did you
Yeah, so
discover the NFT art or crypto voxels first?
honestly, I think it was crypto voxels first.
Okay.
So I've been into VR for quite a bit. Like I have one of the earliest Oculus dev kits. So I was building kind of demos and little VR experiences. So I've always been a big VR fan. Big fan of like Neuromancer, Snow Crash, then later on Ready Player One, all the cyberpunk stuff. Um, and I think I first discovered crypto voxels somewhat early. It was like one of those like crypto threads, crypto app threads, dApp threads. And at first, when I first jumped in, it was kind of sparse and gray. And I remember like at the beginning, to be honest, I was like, oh, I don't really get it. Like this is cool that it's web based, but I don't really see much in here. I didn't see anyone in the world, so I kind of jumped out. And then I was talking to Matthew about this recently, how it was on Scent, one of Connie's posts. Connie
Mm-hmm.
Digital had posted a post about his gallery there, and the screenshots are like some of them were super cool. And I jumped into it, and somehow seeing his gallery like made it more real. Suddenly, because like oh, like it
Yeah.
was actually like it was like the alleyway gallery, so there's like a brick wall. There was like some like podiums or something. There was a wall like the shout out wall where you basically could buy a shout out for the wall. Anyway, it just looked a lot more rich and interactive. And I was like, oh, this is I kind of get it now. And so at that point, I started walking around and exploring. And then basically every NFT project, for the most part, has at least some presence there, either official or unofficial. Someone built it for them.
Right.
And so it's a great way to discover NFTs. And that's basically how I got deep into the rabbit hole of like, oh, discovering all this crypto art, other artists, their galleries, marble cards. Uh, so
That's really interesting, and I think that's so fitting and awesome that the way that you really got introduced in the proper way was through Connie, because Connie is such a
yeah,
badass and like does so many amazing things. I'm super excited
yeah,
to have Connie on the show. He's gonna be coming out soon.
nice,
But he's like mega talented and has been doing really cool things all over the place. So I think that's like the perfect introduction, like going into Connie's gallery. That kind of like makes it all seem real and really interesting to you. I think that is super interesting though that you found crypto voxels and then like explored and found these other projects because um, number one, a lot of people I feel like, at least from my experience and people I know, were collecting or creating NFT art, which is why they got
mm,
into crypto voxels to be able to display that in a better
mm,
way versus just sitting in their wallets. But then also, you were discovering things, when walking around, which is funny because I feel like you yourself actually brought a lot of life to crypto voxels that wasn't there before.
mm,
So that's interesting that you still found, the beauty in the black and white and the gray with these little gems that were around.
for
So
sure.
what made you want to be more involved in crypto voxels? You said like when you find a project you like, you just start like
Mm,
building something on it, which is pretty cool. Were you
sure.
thinking like, I don't know if I could build all this stuff out, but I think other people could?
It was the contest. So at the time, that last summer, CryptoVoxels had a builder contest where basically they had like three big parcels for prizes, and it was just like a general like build your best parcel and enter. And at the time, I noticed no one had submitted a parcel with scripting, and so I really want to try and like I was like, oh, maybe I could try and win a parcel with scripting. So I bought a small parcel. At the time, it was like 0.3 ETH, and I was like, oh man, this is pricey. Um, but and shout out to two members who were really helpful early on, Spidey Monkey and Failure.
Yep.
They built some great tutorials around scripting, and so yeah, followed their instructions on how to get some basic scripting in. At the time, you had to like link to another site called like REPL.it to like hook in the scripting. It's kind of janky, but yeah, got it up and running. And so the first thing I built there was I used OpenSea's API, which is like this, like you can query the latest auctions, and built a store. So basically, once you go in this space, you'd see the latest auctions in OpenSea and like their NFTs there.
Okay, that's
Um,
awesome.
because I always like to build functional stuff. Like I don't really like building things for the sake of building them. It's always like let me build something that actually will be used potentially. And so at first it was like an OpenSea store, and I have a video of it on my YouTube. I can pull it up later on. But like basically you walk into a door, and whichever door you walk into, that would define the category. So if you wanted to like browse CryptoKitties, you'd walk through the CryptoKitty door. If you want to walk through like marble
Oh.
cards, yeah, because at the time buttons didn't work, so you need a way to switch categories,
And
and
you
you
still
could
have
like
this build?
the build is still up there. It doesn't work anymore, but I got a
Okay.
video of it working. So
Yeah, I want
yeah,
to
I can
check that
show the
out.
video.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Okay.
I didn't see that
And so
before.
just started with that. I built another parcel for the contest, which was a color vending machine. So basically, at the time, getting color was kind of tricky. You had to like
Yeah.
DM Ben or like go to Uniswap, and I was like, oh, I think that would be cool if we could do it kind of thematically. So at the time, my friend Breadbreaker, she built a vending machine voxel, and we used that. And Bill basically made it so when you click on it, it could go into open up a window, start a transaction on Uniswap, and do the color trade. And
Yeah, that was super helpful. I use it myself.
oh, awesome! Yeah, I used it a lot too when I was building stuff because like I didn't want to go back to Uniswap and like
Yeah.
have to like click in 100. So it's like okay, let's go to this vending machine and click it. So yeah, those were the two first big builds that I did, and just a lot of fun. Just got into the community, met a lot more people, builders in the space, and I didn't win anything, but I had a lot of fun building
Yeah.
them out.
And then so for those of you that are watching that aren't familiar, Conlan was basically able to secure a larger portion of Gangnam and buy it at a little bit of a premium to get like this adjacent area. And what he did, and I'll let you explain this more, but what he did was lend it out to rent it out to artists and builders that He wanted to like make sure they fit the like neon style. And basically, what you did by owning those but lending them out to people or renting them out to people that you knew would build, you were able to like build up this insanely awesome area that basically created, made that space have such higher value property, um, made it a lot busier than other areas. Like it just brought in so many good things to the space. Thanks for the follow electric disc. And I'll mention some of these comments in the chat as well. But do you want to tell us about a little bit about that first, like how you got that idea?
Sure. Yeah, so I remember at the time there was a district called Gangnam, and it was pretty much empty. I remember exactly three people owned parcels. There were three parcels in the entire district that were owned. Chief Monkey, Watermelon, and then someone who anonymous owned parcels, and that was it. The entire district was just sitting there. And I remember I was at work basically one day, uh, just kind of browsing the auctions, and I just noticed that like, hey, there's like a lot of connected parcels, and I don't know what spurred me on, but it was more like, let me try and jump in and see if I can build this district, because I know that like I'm a huge fan of cyberpunk. I wanted to like see a district that was like all like Blade Runner themed, like all
Mm-hmm.
neon lights and like nighttime sky. And so I was like, all right, let me just jump into it. And so I just bought up like a whole bunch of them. And I think probably it cost in total like probably like $500 total, which I was like, oh my God, this is crazy at the time. But then basically bought it up, reached out to Watermelon and Chief Monkey and was like, hey guys, like I know you guys own here. What do you think about this idea? And they loved it. They were like, oh yeah, we're totally on board for that. And acquired the third anonymous parcel with an offer. And basically just got to work. Just at first it was like just building crazy neon buildings. We got Point Shark in there. Point Shark started building some voxel lanterns and things. And at first we're just building kind of, cool stuff, putting our own art in there. Um, but then basically thinking like, well, we can't fill up all these parcels, and should we try renting them? And I know the first person who actually agreed to lease land was Shortcut. So Shortcut had not in Gangnam, but a different spot. It was more just an experiment. It's like, hey, dude, like I own like a big parcel next to yours. Would you like to expand your shop? And would you like to rent out the land for like a lease, just to try and see if anyone would spend money on virtual land? And he was like, he loved the idea of experimenting. And it's like, oh, this is the first time we can do it. Someone might have leased land before then, but as far as I knew,
Right.
like it was kind of the first time. And so, yeah, just started kind of building frames of buildings, going to artists who I liked, and basically saying, hey, like I love your work. Would you like basically to have a place in this neon zone? And a lot of the artists were just like on board with it. Um, and yeah, you
Yeah.
know,
And now that has become like one of the best places. Like when I bring people to Crypto Voxels for the first time, I bring them to that area. And
awesome.
I bring them to a lot of money builds. And I bring them like, those are the, like my go-tos. And obviously a lot of has
Nice.
money. I keep calling him a lot for short, but money, he told me he prefers. Has some amazing builds in that area.
Oh yeah.
So,
So I preemptively apologize. I haven't been as active in Gangnam myself lately. Like I do the art club, but basically like I haven't been doing as much there. But I love everything in there. A lot has built a lot of buildings in there. Devil's also built some really
yeah.
awesome buildings in there, and yeah, it's just it's a cool place.
Um, we had some people in the chat. Uh, oh yeah, Easy in Crypto back when point 0.3 was pricey. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
it's quite different nowadays.
yeah,
In the apartments, you can't even get something for point 0.3. And I always say this, but if anyone hasn't heard it, if you want to build in CryptoVoxels and don't have land, I have empty land that I'd be happy to let you be a contributor to, and there are many, many people that do. So if anyone wants to
that's a good
reach
point.
out,
That's a good point.
definitely do so. Color vending machine, yeah, that feels like so long ago. Andrew Steinwald, I feel like Conlan, No Shot, and the rest of the Async squad are onto something huge with their platform, Breadbrinker included. Yes, I totally agree. We'll
Awesome.
talk about that. Um, Sweet. So let's talk about, so that I feel like was a big start to like you getting to know the community getting to know you, and you just kind of like made this like really awesome reputation for yourself. And I feel like a lot of people wanted to work with you. which was really awesome. And um, I I also know that you were collecting art at the same time. I know you got that really crazy cool Matt Kane piece.
Yes, one of us.
Um, yeah, that one was like that was a solid piece. Was that one of your like first like bigger investments in NFT
I
art?
I think so. It was kind of a stair step. So Connie was my first piece of art I owned was from Connie, but the first kind of big expenditure I did was actually it was a shortcut piece. DAO Saka, that group where the DAO came together, commissioned art, and then for DevCon 5,
Hmm.
Shortcut did a piece for that, and that was my first kind of half. It was a lot, but like it was my first like stair step. And then one of us was like the very first like, oh my God, what am I doing? But I'm just jumping into it.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that was great, and it just I still remember the moment of seeing that the effect of going into the Frankenstein and then it just going whoosh, and I remember like just like what my mind was just blown at that point.
Dude, that piece is so cool. That piece is
Uh,
so, so, so cool. And I mean, Matt Kane is so talented, but I feel like that piece is, I don't know, I think it's still my favorite of his. Like the
nice,
way that he did everything, I don't know, I just think it's so beautiful. So
nice,
what do you as just purely a collector, and then we'll get
sure.
into some of the platform stuff, but as a collector, what do you Oh, thanks for the follow, Dow Records. What do you look for when you're collecting art?
Sure. So I can say before this, I didn't collect much physical art. Like I literally bought a few paintings over the years, but honestly, I really shy away from physical possessions
Hmm.
because like one with art, I don't know if it's going to be damaged when I move or I don't have space. Like I don't have many walls to put things up, and also I just don't even know how authentic it is. I'm like, well, like one time I bought a piece of art at like a flea market, like someone claimed they made, and then later found out like they had basically repurposed it from like online, like an Australian artist. Anyway, the point is like I don't even know what I'm doing with physical art. And so somehow like when I started buying digital art, it kind of just like clicked more and more. Um, because basically you can own as much digital art as you want and you know exactly who it's coming from. You know that it can never be damaged. I mean, okay, maybe it could, yeah, I mean, okay, if it's using a smart contract that's not decentralized, it could be damaged in the sense it's lost. But in reality, it can't really be damaged or that in that sense. And you can just buy more of it. So I guess as a collector, I just love digital art now, complete believer. And sorry, I got off a tangent, but I mean, oh, what do I
No,
look
no.
for?
Those were all really
Maybe it's
great points, though, and a lot of people like don't.
okay,
A lot of people wonder like, what is the point of collecting digital art when you can't necessarily hang it on our wall or
sure.
not in an easy way? So those were great points.
I think too, as the world gets more populated, we're going to have less space. The idea that everyone has a huge home around them that they can fill up with a bunch of clutter, that's going to go away. Like a few people will have that, but the majority of people won't have that. We're going to live more and more in apartment buildings and condos and boxed together. And digital is the future. Like you're not going to have a room full of places to put all your junk. You're going to have a virtual room where you can hang your virtual stuff. And that's the future. So I'm not to belittle physical art. Obviously, that's still a huge area where beautiful things can be created. But virtual and digital is definitely that's the future for all of us. Um,
Yeah.
so
No, absolutely. And thank you for linking that bread breaker, the one of us piece. And
nice.
I completely agree with you. And I even think like just your background right now, that piece, like imagining a whole room set up with all of these different art pieces, is just kind of like what I see in the future. We're already sort of getting there, but it's
Yeah.
really exciting. And physical art has a totally different experience, in my opinion,
Mm,
than digital
hmm.
art, and they both do different things. But digital
Exactly.
art is something that, for those reasons that you mentioned and many more, is important and is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um, that's awesome. So let's talk about you. Why did you? Do you want to tell everyone what Scribe is and why did you create that? Thanks for the follow,
Yeah. Sure.
Adam.
So Scribe is a way for NFT owners to append an on-chain message to their NFTs. So if you own a CryptoKitty, you can append a message, a handwritten message, hand-typed message to that CryptoKitty so that anyone can view it. It's on-chain so that literally the text is like stored there. It's not like off on like some other site. Um, and the purpose behind it was, well, so as I was collecting art, basically buy a piece, build a crypto voxel gallery, display the piece there. And I basically wanted a way so that if someone sees an art piece, a token, is there like a definitive way they could look up metadata around this piece. So basically, I would buy an art piece and scribe the link to the CryptoVoxels gallery. So if you found an art piece, you could like go to the scribe contract and be like, has the owner put any messages there? Um, that was basically the idea. Um, I went to the OpenSea, and I kind of was thinking, oh, would there be a way for OpenSea, for like an owner on OpenSea to put it there? And that's where I talked to Dan. Dan with OpenSea was super supportive about this, the Scribe. And so yeah, that's the concept. Basically, the message is there permanently. So if you ever transfer away the token, that message is still pending on the history. You can't write anymore to it, but you can always view it. Anyone can view it. And people are doing some really cool stuff with it. People have been doing things like, I saw some people scribing messages, like you gift an NFT to someone, but before you do, you write a message like Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays and send it to them.
Right.
People have been doing little poetries, little add-ons. Sometimes people, like an artist mints a piece, they're like, oh, I want to add a little bit more additions to it. Well, I mint like an extra poem or something I want to add to it. For a while, whenever I had a piece that got mentioned in like a super rare newsletter, like I would append a link to that newsletter and be like, hey, here's a history of the piece. Because I think it does add value. Like if there's two NFTs of the same type, but one's been scribed by a famous artist or famous person, you got to believe that one's going to be worth more money because you can prove that it was in their hands and they actually engaged with it.
Right. And there's also, I think that's a great point. There's so many cool things you can do with Scribe. I used Scribe for the puzzle that I did, which was really fun. I had a kind of like multiverse puzzle with a lot of different games, and the hub was within CryptoVoxels. But anyways, there was a corresponding art piece that went along with the puzzle. And for one of the NFTs that I minted part of the puzzle on Scribe, and
Cool.
that was really cool because the people who found that key, the basically on OpenSea, the hint was that the NFT said like this NFT has been scribed. And so they just had to figure out what that meant because they had never heard of it before. So they were like Googling like scribe NFT and found it, and then were able to search it and like saw this like puzzle thing that was on Scribe. So there's just so many different ideas that you can do with that. Like you said, the gifting. I think it's pretty cool. Even like now I'm thinking, oh, I should write a message on each one and write something different, or I can customize the messages depending on who the collector is. So I love that idea. Andrew Steinwald said, so true, history and narrative is so important when assessing the value of art. Totally agree.
Nice. You also
Basilius.
scribe, you
Oh,
can
sorry.
scribe things like CryptoVoxel parcels. So like one idea is you build a great build on CryptoVoxels and you record a video of it, like a video fly through and all that, and then you sell the parcel. But before you sell it, you at least put a message to the video and be like, hey, if this parcel gets destroyed, at least there's an on-chain link to people to see what it looked like.
Oh, that's a great point. That's a great point. And you're basically saying, even there's so many changes over history, but it gives you this like little token
Snapshot.
of like,
Yeah.
of what happened. Basilius, I never know if that's, do you know if that's the way that they say their name? Basilius? Sorry if I pronounce it wrong, but said scribe is essential. DAO records. What about saving and migrating builds? Yeah, that is, you can save CryptoVoxel builds with Spidey's extension. I don't know if you can move them, but anyways.
Yeah.
Um, cool. So now I guess let's get a little bit into async.
Sure.
If you're up for that.
Of course.
I am a huge fan of the platform. I always talk about it, like I said at the beginning of this, and I think it's just doing nothing against platforms that purely curate, but it's just so much more than that. And it's bringing tech, and it's bringing just literal like life to the work, and is giving it this. I don't know. I just get so excited about it, giving it the collector something that's really special with these different layers that people can update. But if you just want to give people that maybe don't know exactly what async is or are a little confused about it, if you want to give them a general overview, and then we can go into more questions about it.
Sure. Yeah. So in a nutshell, most crypto art today is the act of taking like an image or like a GIF and tokenizing that on the blockchain. So you have a digital token that references a static image. So basically what async is it takes that same concept But rather than tokenize a single image, like let's say a portrait of the Mona Lisa, you instead tokenize it. You take the image and break it up into layers, and you tokenize each layer. So rather than have an image of the Mona Lisa, you might tokenize the background, and then you tokenize a layer of her, and you tokenize a layer of her smile. And so now you can have three different tokens representing this one art piece, which means that three different people can own each layer. But then the artist can also grant each layer abilities. So the artist can say, oh, well, the background token can now change the state, or the portrait character can change the X position or the Y position, and the smile can change the rotation. And so the artist can grant these layers whatever abilities they want with whatever constraints they want. So they can say this X value can go between this bounds and this bounds. So everything's completely within the artist's control still. And once you package it all together, you have this piece of art which can be owned by multiple people controlling it across space and time. Like maybe someone owns the smile of the Mona Lisa and that person lives in Tokyo. Someone owns the portrait outline and they live in like Venezuela. And then someone owns a background portrait and they live in Madagascar. And so now these people all changing this art piece all across space and time, hence the asynchronous aspect. And the cool part is, or one cool part is, some of those layers might even be owned by like an AI or a server, because now since an address can be managed by literally just a piece of code. So a server could be managing its layer and pushing updates. So now you can even have part of the painting controlled by an AI pushing updates at random, or maybe the AI goes out and looks at the weather and looks at political events and changes its layer based on that input. So that's really just the beginning, but yeah, it's kind of a vision for what art could be like, digital art could be like in the future.
Which is super exciting. And like, if you guys didn't catch like the like importance and excitement of that, imagine if you own the background of Mona Lisa and you live in Madagascar and you set it to, the artist has allowed you to set it to your coordinates, and it turns from daytime to nighttime depending on your daytime to nighttime. That's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah,
It's like the different things that you can link it up to, Bitcoin price, like whatever it is, it's crazy. Like I didn't think of it before, and when you initially told me the idea of it, at first I thought to myself, well, if I'm just buying a layer, I don't get to experience the full experience of like having the master. I thought like maybe everyone should have a copy of the master, but now seeing it live, like my opinion has totally changed, and I own layers that I feel like I am a part of the masterpiece. You know what I mean? And the layers themselves are beautiful artwork as well. So I
yeah,
think it does. It's such an amazing platform. It's really exciting, and it's forcing. It's funny. I feel like the tech has always been, trying to keep up with artists innovating and doing all this stuff. And now artists, in this case, are keeping up with your tech and saying, okay, I
mm,
need to innovate based on this, which is when it gets
sure,
really exciting because the tech is pushing the creative bounds and like telling, forcing artists to just think outside of what we normally think of, which is really, really exciting. And something I would love, love, love to see is I do, maybe like a physical print or whatever, and the AR, when you scan it, it's like linked up to async website somehow. So it like shows you the AR of like whatever the current state is. I would love to see
sure.
that. Um,
I mean, part of the cool part about this movement is that because it's so early, um, all the artists right now that are working on it, you're defining it. So it's kind of like the more that traditional artists in the art world who are kind of shunning this and avoiding it, that's fine. It gives you guys a space to take this and run with it, as opposed to like, you know what I mean? Like you
yeah.
get to figure out how it should work, and maybe yeah, there should be AR components, and there should be all, yeah,
Yeah, no, that's really exciting. So so far with Async's launch and with everything that's come onto the platform, are you finding that artists are or even collectors are asking for something in particular, or are they really loving the way that everything is going now? Are artists asking you, hey, we need a script to hook up this? Like what? How have things been going with that?
yeah. So there's been a lot of different people, uh, different ideas in which directions to go. On the artist side, definitely the autonomous hooks have been really popular. I think with that one, we just want to move slowly, because we just don't want to move too fast. Like, even though the autonomous hooks are super cool, there's a lot of people who are just coming to the platform for the first time, and they don't know the difference between a human or an AI controlling a layer. So for them, just having a simple piece that can be owned by 5 different people and changing is a change for them. So we're just trying to take our time and not move too fast on that. On the collector side, the number one thing we probably get asked is, hey, I want more ways to display this art, i.e., like a digital frame. And that's absolutely something that we are looking into and we're exploring. And that's probably will, over the course of the next year, something we'll be developing. But it's something where we definitely have to go. And so yeah, digital frames and autonomous hooks.
No, those are really awesome things, and I feel like digital frames. I get a lot, me myself, which I don't produce frames at all. I get a lot of DMs about where people can get digital frames, which is so
Sure.
funny. Or they ask me if I know people working on it, because they want one. So I think that would be huge for people, especially if it's not like, I don't know. I've seen some digital frames where it's like on like a mini iPad or something, which is still cool, but like
Yeah, yeah,
being able to like show it bigger and like on
yeah.
your wall,
So if I
would
could
be
share one
epic.
thing
Yeah.
with the frame, I mean, a frame makes so much more sense for async art now. Like digital art is one thing, but now async art, you definitely want a frame for it.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the cool ideas is if you have a digital frame optimized for async art, or imagine it can render and communicate with the chain by itself, right? So it's
Yep.
just rendering the artwork and it's detecting updates in the chain. So now you have a frame that you can just connect to the internet with your Wi-Fi password, and it just works by itself.
Yeah.
Then imagine that frame could be passed down, but it could be sold at flea markets and traded and all that. And people forget over time what this frame even does. They just know, oh, it's a digital art frame. And then imagine it eventually ends up on the wall of someone who bought it because they like the art. They plugged it in. Like, oh, I like this art. They show on their wall, and suddenly it changes. Like maybe
Yeah.
10 years down the line, they're like, what the hell? Like this character walked out, left the screen. How the hell did that happen? At that point, they don't even know that someone changed the token. They transferred the token on the other side around the world, and now they updated it, and now this art piece is updated. And then it gets crazy to think about, what if that actually took place over the course of 50 years or 100 years? So like this old dusty frame, this digital frame you plug in, it's working, and suddenly it changes because the Ethereum blockchain is still running. A lot of things have to go right for all that to happen, but that's a
Yeah.
possibility.
The
Or even it
owner
goes up in a
still has to be
museum.
alive. Oh no, not if
Yeah,
it's an autonomous phone. That's
yeah,
never
or
mind.
maybe it got transferred over to like some other account, or their grandson, or they died, and like in their will they willed the tokens over, and now in the
Yeah.
future there's like some platform that allows you to like move tokens over with like a dead man switch or something. So
You're
the
living
token
in the
ends up.
future, Conlan.
I totally am, but like imagine that frame now is in a museum, and people are looking at it, and then like 100 years in the future it changes, and people even forgot that this is an async part. So if even a glimmer of that's possible, I can die happy. I'm like, okay, we did something cool.
That no, I love that idea, and I think you're so right. And it's such, I love the innovation that you guys have done, and I want to see it more from other platforms. And I think you guys are like pushing the boundaries and like thinking so far in the future and of all these like amazing things. Like I love hearing that from you, like as a
Awesome.
founder of this project. Like that's exciting because you're not just thinking about right now and the cool things that we can figure out, but you're thinking about like the longevity of it. So it's just exciting to hear you talk about that.
Hmm.
Um, Samsonite said, uh, "What the hell?" Oh, I think your question was answered, but he said, uh, "The fuck is an autonomous hook?" But I think they answered that in the comments. If you still have questions on it, let us know. Um,
Sure. And you can also
and
join our Discord after and ask questions.
yeah, yeah. Hey, Connie, we were talking about you earlier. Yes, you do have to watch the replay. And it was a good way. Don't worry. Um, Physical frames would be awesome. Dow Record says I
Yeah.
totally agree. And like I said, so many people have been asking about it. Like this is the perfect market for it. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, the market is still very small. I don't know the cost of things like that. But even side note, even or if that frame could do both that you're thinking about, but if it could hook up to just your MetaMask and like you can tell it which ones you want to show from your MetaMask would be really nice.
Yeah.
Um,
And even showing other crypto art, like
yeah,
that adds value to the space just show any NFT you want.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So how can what are you guys working on async right now? I would love to see me personally. I would love to see, and I haven't been over there in a while, so forgive me if you have been working on this. Like more like less manual bidding
Yep.
options and
Yep.
tools, which I'm sure you guys are working on. What else is kind of on your guys' radar?
So there's a bunch of like kind of like just kind of cleanup features we need. And we're actually on the verge of that. Literally within a week max, we should have a whole bunch of new features on the site. Things like, okay, when you sign up, the ability to set an email address and set an avatar, kind of the social
Mm-hmm.
aspect, like that just needs to be done, and that's going to be available. A little bit more flexibility around defining an auction. So right now you can set whether you're gonna close your auction or not. Right now you'll be able to also set like, oh, if there's a reserve price in mind, or if you have a reserve price but no auction time, just open ended, because some artists
Right.
we're seeing now don't have an auction time. They just set it up and they have a reserve in mind. So more flexibility around that on art pieces. Um, More cleanup around showing your collection. Like right now actually, if you click on someone's account user page, it only shows art they've created. It doesn't actually show art they own. So that's going to look a lot better and also cleaner in navigating and finding all the pieces they have, because that's important, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, just a bunch of like kind of cleanup features. But long term or mid to long term, absolutely. So bidding, a way to automate bidding, basically. So that's definitely in the pipeline. So once you set your auction time, right now it won't automatically close, but after that, after this feature rolls out, the next update will be, okay, the system, our contract will have permission from you, and it'll
Right.
be able to uh, close your auctions at time. So that'll be important. Um, yeah, automation tools. So basically building out the tools so that when artists give us the files, we can quickly prepare it. And ideally get to the point where artists can just submit all their files on the site themselves. And then at that point, we just click approve to
Right.
approve the final minting. But
Which will
so
help
that's
with scaling for sure.
absolutely, yeah. We're kind of been holding off a little bit just because like every artist, we want to, ultimate vision is let anyone build a type of art. So we do want to, enable that, but just getting there is like every new artist comes on board. Right now, there's a little bit of hand holding. And so we're just limited in how many people we can do that with each month. So
Right.
we're trying to, pick artists that will really expand the platform, at least in the interim. But definitely, there will be a point where you'll be able to just come on the site, create an account, and start uploading art. Um,
That's awesome.
yes,
We had an awesome question come in, and you guys have thought of a kind of cool solution for this, so I want you to talk about it.
sure.
Are layers updated immediately, or is there a time gate, and is there a gas fee to update an owned layer?
Sure. Yeah. So the transaction fee is you, the layer owner, do pay for the transaction fee because it's a transaction from your account. Um, in terms of the renderer, we developed an open source renderer which anyone could download and run themselves and point at a contract and say, hey, render this piece of art. So in terms of the delay, it typically takes a couple minutes for the transaction to get approved, for our server, which is watching the contract, to catch that render and render it. It will be a little bit faster within a week because we've actually optimized that pipeline a bit. But yeah, it takes a couple minutes to see
And
a
then
piece rendered.
also there was, and I think you're still doing this there, and I forget the term that you guys are using, but if there is a piece that you know changes based on the time of day or whatever, or the location, and it updates every single day, you guys have
Yeah.
implemented something.
Ah,
Um,
yes. Yeah, so the way it works is like, let's say you have a piece and there's like three different layers, right? And this third layer controls the day and night background of the piece. Well, the artist in this case, they don't sell that third layer. Instead, they grant permission through the contract to our server's address and says, hey, this server address can update my layer for me without actually owning the layer. So now our server is now making those updates uh, with that layer. But because we don't want to basically be like the ones paying the cost, we
of
assign you a
every
gas
single layer that has that, which would be a
Exactly.
lot.
Yeah. So basically, we put a gas tank address. So we create an address and say, this address is what we're going to be pushing our updates through. So it's up to you or your collectors or the community or whoever you want to keep that gas tank funded. And that way, our server, which is running with the autonomous logic that you provided, will push updates to that. And that way, that gas tank address is what's being filled. So the cool thing is, anyone can basically send money to that gas tank to keep a piece running. The artist can basically pre-fill it before they sell it and be like, hey, I've pre-filled it with 0.25F before I sell it. Honestly, the onus really should be on the current owner. So once you buy an autonomous piece, as a new owner, you probably should be the one to keep that gas tank running, if you want to see it update. But the cool part is, if you don't want to fill it up and it dries up or gets to the point where it doesn't have enough F to do a transaction, then fine, the piece just stays static. It's still a beautiful piece of art, even if it's not changing as is, because you can always refill it up and have it start working again when you want.
Right, which
Um,
is kind of cool. It's like adding, like literally adding gas to your car when
yeah,
it runs out.
I see like a watch. Like you buy a really nice Swiss watch, you wind it, it works every day. If you stop winding it, it's fine. Like wind it up to 6 months again when you want to start using it again.
Yeah, and
So
other
that's how I
people
would see
could,
it.
like, as an artist myself, I would fill the gas tank of my pieces, and then other people can also just say, oh, I want to see that change again. And other people can just put in some gas money into the gas tank,
Yeah,
even if they don't own the piece, which is kind of interesting. And like you were saying earlier with the museum, like, if the piece is in the museum and the gas tank has run dry, and then you put it back, and if the digital frame starts to change again, would be pretty darn cool.
yeah.
Um, Thanks for Dow Records hopping off. Thanks for joining us. Oh, there's a pop up tomorrow. Hope to see you there. I don't know about the pop up. I'll have to go look at that.
Yeah.
Um,
Where?
Sounds like that would work for my seed fund scent idea. I don't know your idea, Easy in Crypto. Send it to me later. I'd love to check it out. And if you guys have in the chat, if you guys have more questions about async, please definitely post them there because we'll answer any of those while we're chatting now. Um, so where do you see? I think that you guys are onboarding another wave of artists in pretty shortly. Is that correct?
Hmm. Mm-hmm.
How
Yeah,
many
each month we're
artists do
adding
you have total on the platform so far? Do you know?
new. An exact count, no, but I think we have close to a little more than 30,
Okay,
30 to 40, I think.
awesome.
And we're going to add about, I think, 20, 25 more this round.
Wow, so almost doubling.
So yeah. So as we build more tools, we're automating more of it, so it's getting faster. It's getting easier to build art. But there's still the onboard process of like telling artists about it. Like for instance, there's a certain format you got to provide your layers in now to make it easier for our scripts to run. So there's a little bit of initial learning curve. But I mean, just like if you learn a new tool like Photoshop or something, it's not Photoshop doesn't just work for you off the bat. You got to kind of
Right.
commit to learn a little bit about it. So
Yeah. No, very true. Breadbreaker would love to hear if Josie has another async piece in mind. Yes, I do. I'm super excited. I have started it, and it took a little bit of a backseat recently, but I'm working on it with an amazing, amazing person who is like a data scientist. Like he visualizes data like no other, and he's super, super awesome. So it's gonna be really exciting to kind of like create a piece that it technically is a collab, but it's a collab with someone who specializes in data and analyzing that and visualizing that versus like collabing with another artist, which is pretty cool.
nice,
Yes, Taken's theorem.
nice,
Someone said
nice.
that in the comment. Yes, that is exactly who I'm partnering with. So I'm super excited for that one. And I won't spill too much of what it's going to be because I want it to be a surprise, but it will have a lot to do with the NFT space and everything going on in it. So,
Cool.
yeah, Taken's theorem is the goat. Very true. He's awesome, and I met Taken's theorem through Crypto Voxels.
Oh,
Very early on when I was first going in Crypto Voxels, he had a cool build because there weren't that many like really cool builds. He had a huge brain, and the brain, like, you clicked on different part of the brain, and he scripted when scripting was like, if you think it's terrible now, it was like really, really terrible then. But he
okay.
scripted this awesome thing where you click on different parts and it like brought up like an info panel, and like told you different things about it, and it was different parts of the brain. I'm pretty sure it was, but it was very cool, and so I met him through that, and then he was like, "Oh well, what if we were just talking about scripting and all the different things you could do." And that's how I met him, which is funny because that's how I've met a lot of people is just through crypto voxels, which is pretty epic.
Awesome. I mean,
Um,
yeah, Crypto Voxels is just great.
it's like a little family over there.
Yeah.
He was the first. Andrew said he was the first person to display NFTs in CV. Yep, Mr.
Uh,
NFT. There's already an async piece exposed in Somnium space. It looks incredible in VR. Oh,
oh,
link
wow.
that.
Would
I
love
would
to.
love to see
Yeah.
that. Um, oh, really? Do you know which piece it is? Breadbreaker asks. Yeah, I would love to know which piece it is too. It's in Mocha, top level. Okay, we definitely need to check that out. And yeah, no, I need to do more exploring in Somnium Space. So okay, and thank you for telling all of that about async. It's super exciting, and if you guys haven't checked it out, you absolutely should. Are there are there other things that you want to talk about that you're excited about for the space in general, or anything that you've particularly been working on?
Honestly, I've been so heads down the space. I haven't been following a lot of projects like I normally do. Um, I'm always excited to see what Augur's doing, the prediction markets. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
super cool. Um, yeah, honestly, I Crypto Voxels, I definitely, I'm probably, yeah, there's one NFT project I still follow really closely, is Crypto Voxels. Interesting to see how the islands go. Um, Definitely, that's good. I'd like to see just the on-chain solution to leasing land in there. Um,
Which a
I
couple
think that's,
people are working on, I think.
yeah. Jason from Wildcards is working on a solution. Lendroid. There's a few projects. I think that when we get to the point where, as a landowner, anyone can say, "Here's my land. Here's a part of that parcel that I'm willing to lease out at this price until this time," and they can just click all that and be like, "Okay, 0.1 ETH a month until the end of the year," and walk away. And people can come in and
Yeah.
click lease and automatically do that without even interacting face to face. At that point, every person in CV could just be like, all the land that's in CV that's not being used right now suddenly can be used again.
Yeah.
And honestly, we won't even need islands at that point because there's so much land in CV already. There's always going to be someone who's willing to be like, "Oh yeah, lease out my land for $1 a month for a
Yeah.
year because
No, I
I'm not using
agree.
it." And yeah, and then I get all the activity. So I'm really looking for, and I think that'll come. I think something like that will come, hopefully. And when it does, like, yeah, it'll be even easier to get people back into CV.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I don't know, do you think that that should be coming from Ben and his team at Crypto Voxels, or are you seeing that more of like an outside, like even the names you mentioned, kind of service?
I, I think I think there's ways to do it unofficially, but like for instance, you could do it where like you have a server that like opens up the collaborator page and types in the user's address. You know what I mean? Like kind of hack it together.
Hmm.
But really, it should be I think at the official CryptoVox level, because then it
Yeah.
could be like, for instance, CryptoVoxels let you build if you're a collaborator address on the entire parcel, but CryptoVoxels really should have a way to be like, you get collaboration access to this bounds within CV. So then you could have like a floor,
Yeah,
like